Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Dan Mehta here, and in this video we are going to talk about how to analyze a property. I have been asked so many times that, hey Dan, how do you analyze your property? Do you have Excel spreadsheet? Do you have a tool? What type of tool you use? Well, the answer is you don't really need any fancy tool other than your calculator and an Excel spreadsheet. If you don't have access to Microsoft Excel, just go on Google and you can use Google Worksheet as well. It works just perfectly fine. So all you need is, again, Excel spreadsheet or even pen and paper and your calculator just to crunch some numbers, and I will show you step by step how to analyze an investment property and cash flow on a property without spending any money on any fancy tools. Okay, so let's get started. So I have opened up my Excel spreadsheet here on my computer. So the first thing you want to find out is the name of the property you're analyzing, so or the address of the property. So you want to just write down address of the property. All right, so now you know that. Okay, and I would suggest that every time you do this exercise, save these files. It doesn't take too much space, and if you ever have to go back to review your analysis, you can just go back to your Excel file and you can see what kind of analytical data you had crunch when you were going through this exercise. You can add extra tabs here at the bottom, and you can name each tab as your property address. That way you know that, okay, what are the property address. You can do a little bit fancy stuff, but that's not what it is about. So let's get started. So first thing first, what you want to know. The first thing you want to know is your potential rental income. So if you get this property, right, potential rental income, what your income is going to be. So that's what you want to write down here. How do you get this information? You can do quick search on realtor.ca or rentals.ca, or even ask your agent, and they should be able to give you this information. So that's the first thing you need. So I'm just gonna put some numbers. So and it's not real number. These are just for example purpose. So let's say $1,000 is your rental income. Okay. The next thing you want to subtract. So from here, what you're going to do, you're going to subtract vacancy rate. Yes, it's true. The vacancy rate right now is extremely low, but you always want to factor some sort of a vacancy rate so that you have more realistic picture. With the current market, vacancy rate. So with the current market, I normally like to calculate maybe 2% conservatively. You don't have to do 2%. You can maybe do 1% if needed to be. And then, so you're going to subtract vacancy rate. Okay. So we're going to say here, vacancy rate, subtract. Then you're going to have, so after you subtract vacancy rate, you're going to get the effective rental income. So effective rental income. Okay, perfect. Then in a property, we as an investor always want to look for how can we add value. So for example, if you are getting an investment property and it has a let's say shed in the backyard, you can actually use that shed and you can rent that separately, not as a part of your overall lease for your house, but separately. And you can charge maybe $50 or $25 per month, and that will help you to generate additional rental income or additional income and help you to cash for your property. That's one example. Second example, if some properties, they have garage that is like a detached garage. So it's not attached to the house. So when it's detached garage, you can actually, again, rent that separately. You can have a separate rental agreement for your garage. So that's not going to be a part of your house. And there are strategies around that too, how to kind of maximize the occupancy for garage rental. So another video, so we're not going to talk about that in this video. So these are called additional rental incomes. If you have a multiple units or multiplex, 4plex, 5plex, 6plex, you can have laundry facility. That's additional income. You can have parking facility and you can charge for parking. That's additional income. So you want to add those additional incomes here if you have any. So additional incomes. Okay, so all right, so I'm not gonna put the addition symbol here because I think Excel doesn't like it, so I'll just say add additional incomes. All right, so now you get your effective income, which is this amount minus 2% is, let's just say $20, and that gives your effective income, which is there. You oops, yeah, that's why I actually have this done in a proper format. So if you don't want to go through this process, I'm doing this so I can show you, but if you don't want to go through this process, I have a ready-made Excel file that I can share. Just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to send that over to you. So additional income, so let's say in this case it's just a standard house. We don't have any additional income, so we're just gonna put 0 here. So after that, this will give us what? This will give us gross operating income. So this gives us gross operating income. So our gross operating income at this point is 980, right? Our operating income is 980. So far so good. Okay, so I'm just gonna highlight here, bold here, sorry. All right, so now we know our gross operating income is 980. Now what do? We have to subtract our expenses. All right, so we call, in investment world, we call operating expenses. So we start with standard stuff. All right, so we will start with insurance. So on this one, the monthly insurance, let's say, is $200. Okay, I'm sorry, not insurance is 150. Sorry, 150 is pretty standard. Property tax. Property tax. So let's say property tax is $200. Then comes if you have a property manager company, property manager. Now with property manager, there is different type of pricing available in the market. So I would highly recommend that you do your due diligence. If you are comfortable, I would suggest that your first property you try to manage on your own. There are a few reasons. Number one, when you are managing your own property, you are learning a lot of new things that you wouldn't learn otherwise if you happen to hire property managers. So that's number one. Number two, when you are managing your own property and sourcing your own tenants, you are not giving up on your rent. Because when you're hiring property manager, if they find tenants for you, normally they would charge you your first month's rent. So that's kind of a loss income for you as an investor, and especially if you're newly starting. Also, on a month-to-month, property managers do charge a management fee, which is, it ranges depending on the market, but could be anywhere from 7% to 10% of your monthly rent or gross income. So that is something you want to keep in mind. So if you are new, if you're just starting out, and if your cash flow is a little bit tight, I don't think it makes sense practically to go ahead and hire the property manager right off the gate. However, if you're super busy, you have no time, and your property is way far, so I would say anything further than 45 minutes to an hour drive, please hire property manager, and that will help you to keep your sanity in check. Otherwise, it will drive you bonkers. My personal properties, I manage on my own for first few years, about 2-3 years, and now I have a property manager in place who takes care of the properties, but first few years I did everything on my own, and that helped me to learn a lot of things. So just 2 cents there. So property manager, let's say in this case we are gonna be managing on our own, so we're not paying money to property manager. Next is you want to budget for repairs and maintenance. Now, when you get this property, assuming, let's say, 2 scenarios. Scenario A, let's say this property is completely renovated when you bought it. because that's what we prefer. We prefer to buy nice houses in nice neighborhood to attract the high quality tenants. So assuming it's a nice house in a nice area, the chances of maintenance are slim to none, so you can have a very minimal budget. So I would say probably $100 a month is probably good. On the other hand, let's say you bought a property in a nice neighborhood, nice area, but it's a rundown property. If that is the case, I would strongly suggest to do some sort of a renovation to bring it up to market standard and then rent it. Why? Because then you can demand or command the higher rent and attract higher quality tenants too, right? And in a long run, when you're using that method, in a long run, the chances of spending money on repairs and maintenance are greatly reduced. Okay, so repairs and maintenance, let's say $100 a month. What about utilities? So utilities, in this case, it's gonna be zero. We give utilities to tenants, and tenants take care of their utilities, which includes gas, hydro, and water. These are the three things that tenants have to take care of it. In some municipalities, you cannot pass the water bill to tenants' name, or tenants cannot take over the water bill under their name. So in that case, you have to kind of work. If you're managing your own property, you have to send them a bill every month to make sure that when they're sending you the rent payment, they're also sending you money for the water bill. Or you can just set up a contract saying that you will send them bill for 3 months, and every 3 months you will put all the tally up total amount, and they will pay you in a lump sum every 3 months. So you don't have to keep sending the reminder every month. Alternatively, if you have a property manager, then just let your property manager know and they will take care of it. So in this case, our tenants are paying utilities, so it's going to be zero. Next thing is your legal cost. Legal cost, I wouldn't say legal cost, I would say accounting cost, bookkeeping cost. So let's just say bookkeeping. Now, bookkeeping, in the beginning, because you're starting new, if you have just you're starting with one property, you can do totally your own bookkeeping. It's very easy, not a rocket science. You can even go to your own accountant and ask your accountant that, hey, how can I do the bookkeeping here? And they should be able to give you some guidance. If not, there is a website, or there are many options actually, but the one that I had used in the beginning was Wave Apps website. It offers free accounting service through their site, and I use that all the time. They also have option to hire their own bookkeeper for a fee. You can check that out too. I don't think it's necessary, but if you're not comfortable with accounting stuff or bookkeeping stuff, or if you're a very busy person, you do have that service available, or even your accountant might be able to offer you bookkeeping service at a very nominal charge. So in this case, I will say, for example, I would say we are doing our own bookkeeping because it's very easy. All right, so we're doing good here. So far, so good. The next category would be advertising / licensing. Licensing. Some municipalities will ask you to pay money for licensing to have a rental license to rent your property. I know in the city of London, they do have rental licensing, and I believe in, if I remember correctly, in Cambridge or Waterloo, they do have a licensing program too. So if you're renting to students, you must get license from the city. Otherwise, you could get fined heftily. So we will, in this market, I would say we don't have any licensing requirement because we are renting to single family. So there is no licensing requirement. Advertising is not a recurring expense. It's a one-time expense when you are really looking for tenants. And nowadays there are so many free sites like Kijiji, Zumper Pro, Rentals, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. There are so many sites available. You can just go online and put a free ads. So you don't really need to spend any money unless you really want to. And if you are hiring property manager, they will take care of that. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay. So in this case, again, advertising and licensing is zero. The next thing is miscellaneous. Now, what is miscellaneous? So miscellaneous is those type of expenses that you never accounted for. So for example would be cutting grass, lawn mowing service, or in some municipalities you have to move snow to make sure that you are not hold liable, legally liable for someone slipping and falling. So generally we give that responsibility to tenants, but just in case if there is a time where tenants are unable or they're out of town or whatever the case may be, life happens and you have to send someone to do those jobs, then at least you have some budget up here. So I'll just put $50 a month. That's more than sufficient in my opinion. And remember, these are not real cost, right? These are just like a ghost cost that we are just budgeting for. Alrighty, so we are almost there here. The last but not least, if you are hiring any contractor for snow removal or lawn mowing service, then you have to put that here. Normally, as I said earlier, that I ask our tenants to take care of that stuff, so don't have to include in my cost. So we're not going to include that here. So after all this been tallied up, what we get total operating expenses. So these are called our operating expenses. So our operating expenses are $500 in this example, and our gross operating income is $980. So that sounds so far so good. So we're gonna highlight this. So let's see where we are now. Okay, so now we are getting into our cash flow. So remember the top section, so this section here, this talked about our income. What was our income? And this section talks about our operating expenses. And this is our total operating expenses right now. Okay, the next thing comes net operating income. As the name suggests, it's net operating income. So what we're going to do, we are going to take our net not that one. We are going to take our gross operating income and we are going to subtract our gross operating expense, and that would give us net operating income. So this is our net operating income. So now we are getting into cash flow part. From net operating income, now we are going to subtract our annual debt. In other words, mortgage payment. So annual debt. Now on this property, let's say our, well, it says annual, but I'm gonna say monthly because we've been calculating everything in monthly right now. Monthly debt payment. So let's say your monthly debt payment on this one is, we use everything realistically. So I'm gonna change this to more realistic number. So let's say your monthly debt payment on this one is $1,000. Okay. Clearly this is not in GTA. So this is your monthly debt payment of $1,000. So I'm gonna just put minus sign here. Perfect. Alrighty. So all we are doing is we are taking our net operating income here, subtract our monthly debt, and that gives us cash flow before tax. So there we go. So that gives us cash flow before tax. So cash flow before tax is $380 in this example. Again, it's not real numbers, it's just fictitious numbers. But you get the idea how to analyze your property and how you can do this on your own. And then from here, you can make a determination whether the property that you're interested in or contemplating, does it make sense or not. You can create the template and then just change here, 123 Banana Street, Toronto as an example. And then you just keep creating tabs here and every time you have any question, or you want to check what the cash flow look like on this property, or similar city or area or neighborhood, you can quickly go here and check. So now you know how to calculate your own cash flow or analyze your own property. If you have any questions on how to do this, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help. If you want my Excel spreadsheet, which is exactly the same thing but a little bit more formatted, again, shoot me an email and I'll be happy to share that with you. If you are interested in joint venture partnership, shoot me an email. We'll be happy to talk and see what we can do together. And I hope that you've got some value out of this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up button, or subscribe, or like, or comment, or something. Tell me, so at least I know that you like it, and it will help me to stay motivated and create more content like this. So I appreciate. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.